Burkina Faso, a country once labeled the dead end of infrastructure, has just launched the largest road project in African history valued at $200 billion, 10 times its national GDP. And here is the shock. No World Bank, no IMF, no Western contractors. Just determination, minerals, and the hands of its own people. How does a poor nation, long dependent on foreign aid, suddenly dare to build without asking anyone's approval? Where did the money come from? Who is really behind the machines? And most importantly, what if this works? What if Africa no longer waits to be saved but saves itself? This is not a tale of roads. This is a story of rebellion. Not with guns but with concrete. Not with slogans but with asphalt. They call it Fossamibo, a name that may soon echo beyond borders, beyond politics, beyond disbelief. If you believe Africa has waited long enough, walk with this story, 1 kilometer at a time. Have you ever felt your heart break from helplessness? Seeing our motherland, Africa, drained of its last drop of treasure while children, bones showing, curl up in torn clothes, cold, hungry, forgotten. Generations have walked muddy roads, trapped in poverty and pain. But we have endured enough. Now is the time to rise strong, united, and proud. We have the right to live, to grow, to be respected. Share this video so our voice is heard. Let God witness our courage. Let the world stop ignoring Africa. Comment where you're watching from. Like, subscribe, and support the dream of a free, thriving Africa. For decades, Burkina Faso played by the rules. It filled out the forms, signed the pledges, accepted the loans. It welcomed consultants from Paris, economists from Washington, and development experts armed with graphs and theories. In return, it closed schools, cut health budgets, deregulated its industries, and waited. What came was never independence. It was conditional survival. For every loan received, there was a door opened not for citizens, but for foreign mining companies. For every bailout, there was a report written not by Burkinabe hands, but by suits flown in from Geneva. They called it partnership. The people called it poverty. The World Bank sent experts. The IMF sent reforms. Burkina Faso sent gold, copper, labor, and in exchange, it received PowerPoint presentations, endless pilot projects, and policies designed somewhere else. Dependency became the norm. Sovereignty became a slogan, and infrastructure that was a fantasy reserved for capital cities and foreign investors. Then came Fossamibo. It did not begin with a donor meeting. It did not need a stamp from the World Bank. It began with one sentence: we will do it ourselves. Not a model project, not a small initiative, but a national campaign. A total rejection of economic submission. 10 times the nation's GDP. That is what they committed. Without foreign banks, without aid packages, without conditions. The world laughed, but the machines rolled. The contracts were signed. And the dirt began to move. No more waiting for permission. No more selling future generations in exchange for temporary relief. Fossamibo represents the burial of the dependency mindset. It does not just pave roads, it tears up the old path of externally managed growth. The financing model itself is revolutionary. No foreign aid, no international bank. The budget is powered by 3 engines. National gold revenues reclaimed from exploitative contracts, taxes on corporations that once operated untaxed, and massive cuts to non-essential government spending. Every dollar stays in the country. Every road is built by hands that speak the local language. And for the first time, development is not dictated by those who fly in. It is designed by those who never left. Fossamibo is not just an economic decision. It is a psychological declaration that Burkina Faso will no longer rent its dignity. It will build its future, brick by brick, on its own soil. Fossamibo is not managed like a ministry. It is commanded like a military. From the very beginning, Burkina Faso made it clear. This is not development as usual. There are no gala events, no donor ceremonies, no white helmets taking photos. What you will find instead is discipline, urgency, and execution. Each province is a unit. Each machinery cluster is a battalion. Each road segment is an order clear, time-bound, and non-negotiable. Progress is not measured in reports, but in asphalt poured, in kilometers completed, in people reached. Commanders do not wait for meetings. They issue encrypted orders. Surveillance drones fly over construction zones, feeding real-time data to control centers. Road rollers move at night, under headlights, in zones that were once considered too dangerous to enter. There are no ceasefires. The only language spoken here is progress. There is no room for delay. No room for bureaucracy. In the world of Fossamibo, questions are simple. Can it be done? If yes, begin. If no, clear the way for those who can. Within 2 months of the announcement, over 900 pieces of heavy equipment were acquired, not leased, but owned, distributed across the country, tracked by GPS, operated by young engineers trained on site. Every machine is part of a living system that moves, adapts, and never sleeps. No logos of international agencies, no flags of foreign donors, just the national insignia, and eyes sharp, focused, determined behind dusty goggles, driving machines that never existed here before. Each region reports daily, photographs, drone scans, supply chain logs all fed into a central nerve center. Fossamibo does not tolerate excuses. It enforces accountability. Those who delay are replaced. Those who finish early are promoted. This is not symbolic infrastructure. It is existential. More than 50 zones previously considered conflict-ridden have now been reclassified as operational corridors. Fossamibo does not send diplomats to negotiate peace. It sends engineers to reclaim land. Every road built is a territory taken back. Every kilometer paved is a message sent. We are here. We are not leaving. This land is ours. Fossamibo is not a project. It is a doctrine. A way of building that transforms not only land, but the mindset of a nation. In Burkina Faso, infrastructure is no longer an invitation for aid. It is an instrument of sovereignty, a tool of unity, a weapon of progress. Before Fossamibo, Burkina Faso's youth were called a lost generation. Over 70% of the population was under 30, yet unemployment was rampant. University graduates had no projects. Village youth had no direction. Many fled to Europe. Others fell into the shadows of extremist groups. The system labeled them unskilled, unneeded, replaceable. Fossamibo rewrote that script. No fancy resumes, no waiting lists. Young people were pulled straight from classrooms, from roadside stalls, from dusty villages. They were not asked if they were ready. They were told they were needed. Over 5,000 engineering students were reassigned from university to the construction front lines. Their classrooms became job sites, their professors became team leaders, and the highway became their thesis. There were no textbooks here, only concrete mixers, GPS trackers, and responsibilities heavier than any lecture note. Training was not abstract. It was physical, practical, unforgiving, but it was also transformational. Each team was structured like a micro-army. A lead engineer, a financial officer, surveyors, machine operators, and local apprentices. 12 to 15 people per crew. Every single person had a purpose. Every mistake cost real progress. Every success meant a road opened, a school reached, a village revived. One young female engineer summed it best. They said, "I studied engineering to get married. Now I manage 8 kilometers of national highway. Let them argue. I am busy building my hometown." This was not employment. It was empowerment. Many of these young workers now command their own construction teams. Some have opened private infrastructure companies. Others return to teach at the universities they once left, this time with field-tested wisdom, not theory. And then, there were those who went further. They opened training centers. They mentored apprentices. They created a ripple effect. One engineer, one road, one generation of builders. Fossamibo did not import talent. It grew it. It circulated knowledge from local to local in the same dialects, with the same customs. Former operators became instructors. Villagers became surveyors. Students became supervisors. When knowledge stays, nations rise. A concrete mixer may look like a machine, but in Burkina Faso, It became a tool of identity. When a young person learns to operate it, when they see their name printed on the blueprints of a national highway, they are no longer just labor, they are legacy. Fossamibo does not promise jobs. It creates builders, leaders, a generation that no longer begs for opportunity but builds it from the ground up. Share this video so our voices can be heard. May God see our courage. May the world not turn its back on us again. Comment where you are watching. Share this for a dream, a DIY Africa. Here is the heartfelt message from a son of Africa to everyone around the world. And you? Where are you? And what is your story? My name is Daniel Otieno. I was born and raised in Kisumu, Kenya, on the shores of Lake Victoria. I have lived through droughts, seen children go hungry, and watched our people work harder than anyone on this earth, yet remain trapped in a system that rewards only those who control the ports, the loans, and the aid. Today, after watching the story of Fossamibo from Burkina Faso, my heart is full with pain, but also with pride. We Africans are not lazy. We are not hopeless. We are not broken. But for too long, we have been made to feel as if our only role is to wait for help, for permission, for salvation. And yet, help never comes without chains. Permission comes with conditions. Salvation arrives in the language of debt. Fossamibo is the first time I saw something different. A nation that said, enough. A people who chose to believe in themselves, even when the world laughed. And that made me cry. Because I saw myself in their struggle. I saw Kenya. I saw Uganda. I saw Congo. I saw South Sudan. I saw all of us in that dust rising from their roads. Africa rising. Those words have been spoken at summits and by presidents in suits. But in Burkina Faso, they're not words, they're movement, they're sweat, they're steel and concrete, and GPS reports sent from young engineers who once had no future, now rebuilding a nation brick by brick. I think of our young people here in Kisumu. Many dream only of crossing to Europe. They drown in the Mediterranean not because they are foolish, but because they have no space to dream at home. Fossamibo shows what happens when a country creates that space, when it stops waiting and starts building. That is the spirit of Africa rising. I imagine a new Africone, where we no longer look to France or London for instruction. One where our universities teach us not just theory, but responsibility. One where engineers are born from the soil, not just trained in foreign labs. A new Africa where we process our own food, design our own infrastructure, and keep our own gold. But we cannot do this alone. Burkina Faso stood up, yes. But imagine if Ghana joined them. If Nigeria refused imported solutions and trained its millions of youth. If Kenya mobilized its counties like military battalions for development. If Congo, with its rivers and minerals, said, "We are not for sale," then truly, we would see not just Africa rising but Africa reborn. Africa reborn is not about slogans. It is about shifting identity. It is about no longer being defined by wounds, but by wisdom. Not just by struggle, but by structure. It is about building nations that honor their people, not just their debt collectors. We need leadership with the heart of a mother, the discipline of a builder, and the humility to learn from stories like Fossamibo. Because that is the future. Not waiting, not begging, but designing, organizing, executing. I dream of a Kisumu, with roads like those in Burkina Faso, roads that lead to clinics that don't run out of medicine, to schools where children don't faint from hunger, to markets where farmers earn enough to send their children to university. This dream is not fantasy. It is a demand. We deserve it. Africa deserves it. Africa rising must mean every village has light. Africa rising must mean no woman dies giving birth because the road to the hospital is broken. Africa rising must mean our children believe they have a future here, not across the sea. The new Africa must be built by Africans who love this land more than they fear failure. The new Africa is not ashamed of tradition, but it is also not chained by it. It is bold, pragmatic, and rooted in dignity. And for Africa to be truly reborn, we must stop hiding our brilliance. We must tell our stories. We must teach each other, share blueprints, build together. To my brothers and sisters in Burkina Faso, you have lit the path. You showed us that faith without action is dead, and you acted. Now, It is our turn. I want a continent where each country is not competing, but completing each other. Where a road in Mali links to a port in Tanzania. Where we don't just speak about Pan-Africanism, but we pave it kilometer by kilometer. Let Fossamibo be more than a national project. Let it be a continental wake-up call. This is not just about roads. It is about rising. It is about rebirth. This is Africa rising. This is the new Africa. This is Africa reborn. My name is AWA Traoré. I live in Bamako, the capital of Mali, a country rich in music, gold, and history, but weighed down by conflict, poverty, and broken promises. I speak today not as a politician or expert, but as a mother, a sister, a daughter of Africa, who has carried too many wounds in silence. When I watched the story of Burkina Faso's road revolution, Fossamibo, I cried. I did not cry out of jealousy. I cried because for the first time, I saw proof that our pain does not have to be permanent, that another future is possible, that Africa rising is not just a dream, it is a decision. In my country, we have waited. Waited for aid. Waited for peace. Waited for someone to notice our pain. But waiting has cost us generations. In villages outside Bamako, children still learn under trees. Women walk for hours to find water. Young people leave, not because they hate this land, but because they feel this land has no place for their dreams. But Fossamibo is proof that this can change. When I saw young Burkinabe engineers commanding road teams, I thought of my own daughter who loves math and wants to be an architect. I used to fear for her future. Now I see another path. A new Africa where girls do not need to escape to succeed, where they can build their nations instead. Africa Rising must not be a slogan for conferences in Geneva or speeches at the United Nations. It must be visible in the dust of our roads, in the hands of our farmers, in the voices of our teachers. It must mean schools with lights, hospitals with medicine, jobs that do not require you to know someone in power. Here in Mali, we have suffered. We have buried children due to diseases we could have treated. We have sent our brightest minds abroad, knowing many will never return. We have watched our leaders attend donor meetings, begging for money while our gold mines are owned by foreigners. This is not dignity. This is not development. This is not Africa rising. We need a new Africa that is united not by language, but by vision. One where Bamako learns from Ouagadougou, where Dakar shares resources with Niamey, where we invest in our own capacity, instead of importing experts to tell us who we are. New Africa is not about rejecting the world. It is about rediscovering ourselves. It is about putting the African child at the center of policy. It is about building with what we have and believing that what we have is enough.